Hey guys, we've had a crazy week or week and a half of some really odd weather and a lot of wind, and so it made it really difficult to get out in the garden to do anything. You can see here some of the terrible wind damage that happened to the salad garden I planted, and I'm hoping that this poor lettuce, spinach, arugula garden will come back at some point. But we'll see what happens in the next few days. But this last weekend we were able to get into the garden and plant tomatoes. So today I want to talk to you about planting tomatoes. So if you've been following along on our channel, you know that we are trying more of a Ruth Stout type method with our raised beds and with some other things this year. And at some point this week or this weekend, I'm going to shoot a little garden tour video so you can kind of see how things are going. But let's talk about planting tomatoes. These are my winter sown tomatoes, and I'm so proud of them, even though they're smaller than what you can buy in like a local greenhouse or something like that. And I will show you what they look like now after 2 days of being in the garden. And I was amazed at how they are liking it out there. But we're going to talk about determinate versus indeterminate tomatoes, the varieties that I am planting and how I am planting them. First, I got smart and actually put down the hay on the beds before planting instead of trying to put hay around things. I actually have 4 varieties of tomato plants that I'm planting out in the raised beds. We have delicious variety tomatoes, beefsteak tomatoes, and then this year I'm trying a Cherokee purple tomato. I just want to see what it's like. I've heard really good things about it. And I've also planted an early girl, just one early girl tomato, because I do want some early tomatoes. Now, all of the varieties that I'm planting out in our raised beds are indeterminate. And what that means is they will continue to grow and vine and bloom the entire season. But that also means that they're going to get really, really large. And I know that because every time I've planted these, I've had somewhat of a jungle. So I'm going to do some extra pruning this year to hopefully help that. But I do realize that these are going to come up and get tall, and then they're going to fall over and continue to grow, and that's okay with me. Now, if I were to continue planting tomatoes out in my raised beds, which even after we build our 4 seasons greenhouse probably is going to happen, at some point I might try some type of stringing of the tomatoes. But we don't plant ours in the ground. Our raised beds are already, 2.5, 3 feet off the ground. So if I were to try to do strings, it would probably be a little difficult to actually pick some of the tomatoes. I'm just going to have to be fine with a little vining. There are also a couple of varieties that I'm planting up at the house in containers, and those are determinate tomatoes. One is the baby boomer cherry tomato, which I'm excited to try. I've never tried that one before, but according to the websites that sell these tomatoes, you can get up to 300 cherry tomatoes off of one plant. Obviously, that's why they call it baby boomer. The other type that I'm planting up here in the house in a container is called Juliet, and that's more of like a grape size tomato, really sweet tomato. And again, those are both determinate varieties, and what that means is they're more of a bush type tomato. At some point, once they flower, those branches will stop growing and just produce tomatoes. So they aren't vining so much like the indeterminate tomato. And so those are up here on the porch because, as you know, I'm growing my salad garden up here. So if you take a look at this tomato plant, you notice that there are little tiny hairs all over the stem and all over the branches, and those are all hairs that would produce roots if they were planted in the ground. So when we plant our tomatoes, we're planting them deep into the ground, way up to the second set of leaves. And some people will even lay their tomato plant over on its side so that all of those roots can develop and grow, and it just makes for a stronger, healthier tomato plant. So God bless Dan again. He's out here helping me. And you can see that we've got some old cement drainage tiles that we brought from my father's farm. When he planted tomatoes, he used these drainage tiles around them because they were very heavy. And when you're trying to protect seedlings from, especially right now for us, from the wind and that type of thing, these will not get blown over. They're very heavy. And what he would do is put these drainage tiles around his tomato seedlings, and it made it easier to water them also because you just water inside the drainage tile. Now we're hoping that our level of hay mulch is going to be such that we won't need to be watering much anyway, but that makes watering easier. And you have to be careful not to overwater when you put drainage tiles or something like that around your tomato plants, because it can start to get mold and fungus in there if you leave them on there too long or if you water too much. So when these tomato plants get to be as high as the drainage tile will come off, and then we'll put the cage around the tomato plant, because at that point they should be tall enough and strong enough to withstand, any wind or anything like that. So I'm planting 8 delicious variety tomatoes. Those are one of my favorites and was my mom's favorite. They taste really, really good. Then of course we've got 4 beef steaks, and those are going to be our slicers. Now the delicious tomatoes can be slicers also. Then my early girl and my Cherokee purple will be in this really small bed by themselves, and we'll see how that goes. So despite the wind, we were able to get in 16 tomato plants down here in the raised beds. And here is a little bit of video about how they look 2 days later. You can see how happy they are out here. Check out all of the leaves that are growing on these tomato plants. And they are getting quite a bit higher just in the 2 days that we've had them out. So I'm hoping to finish off all of my planting this week. I'll be taking you along as I plant some cucumbers, some pole beans, and also get some carrots in that garden. And this is shaping up to be one of my best gardens yet, and I can't wait to give you a tour. I'm going to show you how our potatoes are doing that we planted with the Ruth Stout method. I'm going to show you how our rhubarb's been doing since I composted and using Ruth Stout with that. And so if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and follow along. And you can also watch us build our 4 Seasons Passive Solar greenhouse when we get to that point. Thanks for being here with us today. Certainly hope you guys are having a great week, and we will see you soon.